So what we're going to learn is that the towers didn't burn up, nor did they slam to the ground, but turned into dust in midair. That's not a collapse, that's dust squirting up. For example, look at these beams falling with dust trailing behind them, opaque dust. Let's say you're going to impersonate one of those beams. So you cover yourself with dust and jump off the top of the building. From the ground up, would someone see that dust trailing off of you? No. You need more dust. Okay, let's say you get a couple of armloads of flour and eject it out as you're falling. Can you impersonate this? No, that's opaque dust. It initially blocked out all of the sunlight, 100% of the sunlight, so it was pitch black. It's very dense dust. And you come to the realization that these pieces of material are becoming dust. They're frothing up into dust as they fall. And they didn't hit the ground. But if you didn't know that these turn to dust, and you start out with an assumption, you wouldn't get to the right answer, because do you know of anything that could turn a building to dust in midair? Something turned it to dust in midair. Something turned it to dust in midair. Something turned it to dust in midair. What happened? The towers didn't slam to the ground. If they had slammed to the ground, there'd be over 1 million tons of debris left stacked up in the ground. That didn't happen. Manhattan would have been flooded. Well, as we'll see, the towers were built in the Hudson River with a dike around them. If you slam 1 million tons of debris down onto the dike, you're going to break it. Didn't happen. And if you slammed 1 million tons of debris to the ground, it's going to make a thud. The seismic signals did not reflect that. All right, you go to work on a nice September morning. And there's Tower 1, there's Tower 2, and you work down here in Bankers Trust. So you're going to go into your office there in Bankers Trust, and then you're going to look out the window and see what you can see. Down here, you look out the window. What's it going to look like? That's looking out that window. Air-conditioned office, looking across the street, and whoops, where did the building go? This is right after 9/11. Tower 2 is basically missing. Tower 1 is missing over there. I think everyone would have to agree there's not enough stuff left piled up on the ground. So again, we were looking out there. Now we're going to look the other direction. And there's this main body goes missing. Just the north wing is left. The building just went missing. That's building 4. It was a 9-story building. So this is what was there beforehand, and it just basically all went away. And then a satellite image shows, all sorts of holes that were in those buildings. The middle part of building 6 is gone. It looks like a post hole digger cored it out. You have holes over here on Liberty Street. Even some holes in Vesey Street. And notice again that north wing is remaining, but the main body's gone. And this is Bankers Trust, where you're looking out the window, seeing a non-building across the street. Few people talk about this building. It's a 22-story skyscraper. Well, it would be the tallest building in most small towns. It went away except for that last little corner. And building 7 over here as well. Every building with the WTC prefix was destroyed that day. We're going to go down and look on the ground and see what it looks like down in here. looking at the front door of Tower 1. So here we are down on the ground. There's Tower 1, north and south walls. The ambulance that was parked in front of the front door of Tower 1. It doesn't look clobbered by anything. This picture, I believe, was taken on 9/11, later in the day. I don't see any big steel beams on the ground. There's aluminum cladding. The towers were built with steel columns on the outside that were covered with aluminum cladding. And you see the aluminum cladding. The ambulance looks pretty good. This was the day after 9/11. Peter Jennings in the studio. This is
Stephanopoulos is down in Lower Manhattan today. George, I don't know if you heard a little earlier me raise this question, which was actually raised by ABC's Jackie Judd as we look at these areas down below and the video of where the towers used to stand and where is all the rubble gone. And have you been able to, is there any way you can answer that question?
I'm sorry, Peter, I didn't get the question.
Okay, I apologize. Jackie Judd and several other people keep asking us, when you look at where the towers used to stand, there is surprisingly so little rubble. Where did all the rubble go?
So what he is telling us is that it's obvious there's a big lack of material there.
The 110-story tower disintegrated in just 10 seconds. The collapse of the North Tower killed over 1,300 people trapped inside the building.
Again, here's the ambulance picture and all that was left. Where's the debris of 1 million tons of building? But we're going to talk about dustification. As we talked about before, this is turning to dust as it falls. Now this is slow motion of Tower 1 coming apart. And you notice this, there'll be some column that starts falling down this corner. I think it's in here. And we're going to follow it down and watch how it just turns to dust completely. And as well as these other things. Here it is. Okay, it's got the dust trailing behind it. This is a solid piece. It's like ice cream melting. It's going away. And if you focus on various other parts, you'll see the same thing. There's no sound with this. This is a high-speed version. You can see that piece again. And these big chunks over here. So you see it's turning to dust as it comes down. And we're going to go look down on the ground right next to where this was coming down. This is the Verizon building here. Whoops, right here. And we're going to look at the corner right below there. There's a cluster of core columns that remains here. Watch what happens to them. They just faint. I believe that's the upper part of where those firefighters survived in Stairwell B. Those are core columns. This is another one. See how it peels away like a banana? And you see this clear air around it. Some folks like to say dust settled on it. Well, dust can't settle on something like that fast, without seeing it. And there's from across the river, you can see those two. And then there's a sequence from the northern view. And my detractors like to say, oh, it fell over. And because the dust was so fine, it hung in the air. Well, if the dust is so fine it hung in the air, how could it be settled instantly on these vertical columns We saw how it was peeled away like a banana. But it comes a point where it's no longer a crisp boundary and just turns to dust. I call it dustification. The dust went a certain distance and then went up. Another bizarre thing. Again, it's important just to take in all of the data, and it starts telling you the story of what happened. Let the evidence tell you the story instead of forcing it to go a particular direction. And I wouldn't have seen this before, that just all particular distance then goes up. There's a video filmed by Bob and Bree, who had an apartment up here. Bless them for saving this video and then sharing it with the world. This is an image from there, and the dust doesn't quite touch their window, and it goes up.
Oh my God!
Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! I told you! Oh my God! All these people! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God!
Oh, it's awful.
Oh baby, hold Lily. Oh my God!
Building now just being covered on the right side.
Come on, let's go to the other room.
Yeah.
God,
Let's see how it's starting to...
Is this dangerous?
Seen
I think it's just smoke.
There's no danger about the buildings.
Florida today
Is the air conditioner turned off in the room?
Good thinking.
And the windows closed in the
People
bedroom?
near the area are in an absolute crazy situation. The entire top of the building just collapsed.
The entire building is collapsed.
Building just collapsed.
We're going to leave because...
See how it just starts shooting up? It doesn't touch the window.
This is a devastating development.
It doesn't go past here.
Is no more. We do not know at this point the extent of injuries or casualties, how many people were in these buildings trying to get out. We've seen some gut-wrenching.
Oh, people are running away. They're running away.
Hanging out of windows.
What are they going to do?
Green
You guys
grass.
gotta run away.
You see the obvious.
That grass stayed green the whole time.
All right, let's go to ABC News right now.
I think it's going to be blown away from us.
Something like coming down the window.
No, it's the wind is being blown away.
Horrific, incredible, not to be believed.
It just came that particular distance, but it went up.
Center where just a few minutes ago, within the last minute actually, the second twin tower collapsed. Just to recap, if you're just joining us, around 8:42 Eastern time this morning here in New York City, a plane crashed into the right twin tower of the World Trade Center.
Isn't that amazing? It goes up. Now, controlled demolition, the dust doesn't really go above the highest point of the building, the original building. But this went up and blocked out all the sunlight for a few minutes. And it went up and continued going up. Something turned it to dust in midair. Something turned it to dust in midair. Something turned it to dust in midair.